Hello, I'm Sami, user researcher here at Synthetic Users. I recently discovered how to do a card sort with a very simple workaround, and I wanted to show you how to do it. First of all, what is a card sort? It's a research method that we use to understand people's mental models, how they group things, how they label things, and how they make sense of information or actual object things. The goal with a card sort isn't to test people's knowledge or to find a right answer or a wrong answer. It's to understand really how people naturally organize things in their minds. So instead of us deciding what categories there should be upfront, we allow participants to, we allow synthetic participants in this case to give things their own shape. I'll be using a coffee example for this video. Firstly, because coffee smells great and it's delicious, and it's probably helping you like stay away right now to listen to me and watch this video. But also because it's quite familiar yet still complex enough to reveal differences between beginners and more experienced users. This, by the way, mirrors the kind of challenges that consumer brands face when deciding how to group things together, how to create bundles for products, how to design onboarding flows, or even how to display things on shelves in like an actual shop, or whether it's an e-commerce experience. There's companies normally face these kinds of challenges when they don't know how their audience groups things or understands the structure of things. So for the purpose of this demo, let's imagine I work at like Nescafe or DeLonghi or Costa Coffee, whichever you like best, whichever's your favorite. And for this, you're going to want to use a concept test. So wherever you are in the app, find a project where you're going to be doing this exercise and create a concept test. Okay. So rather than a multi-concept test, we're going to go for concept testing. I've already set up the environment here, and we're going to have to do this with a single image. Why a single image? Because for this type of study, all items have to be shown together at once rather than as separate concepts. If we were to run this study as a multi-concept test, showing the synthetic users one image per concept, the system would have our audience, our synthetic users, naturally compare each item against each other, which would then shift the task toward them evaluating the items rather than organizing them. So I had ChatGPT generate a single image for me so that participants could see the full set at once. And that mirrors how a traditional card sort works. We're showing everything together to the participants and keeping them focused on grouping. So this is the image I asked ChatGPT to generate for me, and we'll upload it here in a second. I'll go ahead and close this one. So let's look at how I actually want to set up this study. For audience, I said home coffee makers who regularly prepare coffee at home, split 50-50 between beginners and experienced enthusiasts. Then these participants may own a mix of brewing equipment. I gave more details, right, to build a better picture of my audience. And the note on this is that as with any other synthetic study you're running, this works best when the audience is very well defined. If you care for a very specific market or experience level or skill level, we really need to encode that clearly into the system, or especially if you do have your proprietary data, go ahead and RAG the system before you create your study to provide the agents, right, the system more information so that they can not default to a generic user. When we give the system more details, they are treated as constraints. This is what we're doing when we build the audience, and then the output is going to be a lot more grounded. So for my problems, I went ahead and picked the following ones. First one is that many returns and complaints we get in my coffee company aren't about defects of the product, but they're more about People saying this is more complicated than I expected, or I didn't realize I needed this. Another one is, as a brand, we struggle to design upgrade paths for our customers because we don't know what the next thing is that the user's ready for. So we don't know when an accessory is going to become worth it for them. Number 3 is customers are buying our machines, but not our blah, 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 grinders, scales, etc. And number 4 is we're structuring our offer based on our internal understanding of the products, like having catalogs organized by product type, for example. But our customers normally think based on their own routines, their level of effort, and their confidence. This is why we're doing a card sort, right? To gain understanding on, to understand their mental model. And finally, customers feel overwhelmed or intimidating when shopping. They're unclear about what's essential versus optional, etc. Okay, we will describe the concept very simply, as the image is already quite detailed and has lots of items. We're not going to put any details in here. At the written level, we're going to say 10 items normally used for coffee making. And we add our image. And so that's going to be the stimulus that the participants will see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say 6, as I want a 50-50 split, and ask the system to generate my synthetic users. Right, so the study's been created. We're at the interview level now with our research plan at the top and the items for the card sort. About the interview script, how this works normally is, unless you're using a custom script, that study type, the system automatically generates 10 questions based on the problems and research goals that you've described up front, right? So it's going to generate a list of 10 more open-ended questions about routines, decision-making, confidence, and, whatever's relevant to the subject you're trying to investigate. And that's not necessarily the methodology of the card sort, even though it's getting the participants talking. But yes, it's not replicating the method. It's not, it's simply establishing context and starting to surface some attitudes. So this is where the hack or the workaround comes in. We can see the first ones are: what challenges do you face? What strategies do you usually use to address these challenges, etc. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Oh, it's still generating them, so we'll give the system another minute. Do something. Yes, so in a moment, I'll be able to ask a follow-up question, either to this particular synthetic user or to all my users, which is what I'm going to do, because this is the hack. To simulate the card sort, I would be doing in person with somebody, or online, maybe with drag and drop functionality somewhere on some app, like Miro probably. I'm gonna be using the follow-up questions feature to ask all of the participants something like, can you please organize these items in a way that makes sense for you? So yeah, now this feature is available. I'm going to go ahead and type that. Let's see what happens. We'll give them all a minute to answer. Okay, so here's how I would organize these items. Core coffee making tools, most essential for my routine. We got grinder, kettle, scale, everyday brewing options, so for different days or moods. French press, the drip coffee maker. Okay. And always essential, optional, or overlapping. Okay, we have a look at the other one. Scroll down. Okay, so these are based on their functions, potential use, frequency, and value to my routine. So they're already giving some more detail and description as to their rationale of the grouping, but we can even dig deeper and ask, please explain why you would. So just to get a little bit more context or more juice out of the synthetic users, you can ask as many follow-up questions as you like, of course, as long as they're up to 20. And yeah, this is going to allow us both to grab their grouping and the reasoning behind it. We can go ahead now, once this is generated, I'm going to go ahead and generate a report so we can get to some quick insights. Report, generate report. Well, actually, let me wait until they finish answering. See. Okay, so they've answered. Report. Okay, let's go and click generate and wait for a moment. And yeah, the reason this works from a method's point of view, even though it's a hack and it's a workaround, is that we're separating the more attitudinal questions at first, like the context and the scene setting and everything in the beginning, from the sorting task. So we're avoiding biasing the participants in how they're organizing the items. We're not talking about that in the interview. Everyone's shown the same stimulus. They all receive the same sorting prompt, and they all explain the rationale in their own words. Again, this is not a drag and drop card sorting and not a in-person card sorting, but it still preserves the idea or the goal, that cognitive goal of the method. And in terms of insight, this will be, of course, based on the more attitudinal questions that were generated by the system. So I'm going to go scroll down. It's still doing it. It's still generating. I'm going to actually use the ask questions feature on the report. So I'll be nudging the researcher, the agents that analyze the transcripts, so that they can then focus their analysis on the last two questions. And we can add that section to the report. And from a card sorting exercise, normally we wouldn't get like formal product categories as a result from an analysis of an exercise like this. It's more going to be, we're going to find patterns around the user's workflows. They're, in this case, talking about coffee-related items. It would be how much effort things take or how confident they feel with the items and things like this. And normally a lot of differences will arise in terms of who's a beginner and who's more experienced, and how that affects their grouping. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom now that this has been generated. And I'm going to ask the agents to please focus. This is going to save us a lot of time, not having to go back to the transcripts and analyzing everything ourselves. And here we go. So thanks. I'll analyze how participants answered the 2 follow-up questions about the grouping exercise. So they're finding the key patterns, so some strong commonalities across the participants. What are the main drivers of grouping? So convenience, perceived learning curve, how hard things are to understand how to start using, etc. Okay, what they grouped similarly. Okay, so here we have everything with their evidence and their interpretation. And the agent is also mentioning who were the synthetic users that picked this kind of grouping. Great. So this is a very quick way to run a card sort. And I think, yeah, the rationale also is here, which is wonderful and a very easy way to get some very fast insight. And for brands, these mental models can really inform product bundling or like the problems I mentioned at the beginning when I was setting up the study, the like upgrade paths or how things around merch, onboarding, product display on shelves, things like this. It can really help reduce or mitigate a common source of friction caused by misalignment between or just not knowing what our customers think and how our products are structured, or where companies are typically kind of defaulting to assuming customers because of lack of research customers think the same way we do. So this is a great way to avoid this friction. Again, this is never a replacement for a moderated card sort, but it's a very, very fast way to explore how different audiences, or how a specific audience will or would, actually the correct word is would, structure the same set of objects before you go and invest in primary research. So I hope this was an interesting workaround to have a look at, and I hope that you try it yourself. If you do, please let me know. I would be really interested to know how you get along and what you think. Okay, I hope it helps. Thanks for watching. Ciao.